Oh, wow. Hello and welcome. In the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about AngularJS migration. Let's first have a show of hands. How many of you have done any migration work, not necessarily Angular? Wow, a lot of them. And how many of you still enjoy that experience? Well, I don't blame you. Well, if I can make this work. Hold on a second. Well, migration is very hard. It can easily be one of the most challenging and least enjoyable experience you can have. Because we're dealing with a legacy system, probably somebody else built before you, and the guy moved on. You don't know anything about, you don't know enough about this system, and now you're asked to take this apart, tweak every part inside, and then put it back in, and it should still work. And that's really not trivial. And we're here to learn how we can make your job a little easier. So a little introduction, and my name is Hanyu Xiao. I'm founder of AngryDog. I've been in the software business for over 20 years. I've done a lot of things, but one thing I enjoyed is building developer tools. As I said, I was Eclipse plugin developer. And AngryDog is my brainchild. It's essentially a static analysis tool that can scan your Angular project. We extract metadata from your source code, piece together all the information at a high level to gain deeper understanding of your application. So then we can feed back to you a bunch of visualizations for you to look at your own application. And then based on that knowledge, we can go further, we can do code generation, and that's why we think we can help in the migration process. Now, if you want to use AngryDog today, you can install the VS Code extension. And if you are looking at an Angular project, there's a button you can click, and we have an editor that pops up to show these diagrams that we derived from our analysis. But we're phasing out this UI in favor of this. This is what you get from the website, and we allow you to do the filtering, searching, and so with the same metadata, you now have a much better user experience. And just last month, we did something really cool. With the help of the Angular team, we scanned GitHub to find all the Angular-related repos that we can find. And we found about 8,800 of them. We analyzed each of these projects, and now the metadata and the visualization is up on angulardog.org. If you had any open source projects for Angular, chances are they're already on the website. So check it out. And with this many data we have collected, we can run a lot of interesting queries. So one thing we did for the migration purpose is to find out what can the data tell us about migration, the state of migration. So I offer you two pieces of statistics. First is that we went look for projects that have the dependency on Angular upgrade. Why do we care about that package? Because it gives us the upgrade module, the one that can bootstrap our AngularJS application within the Angular application. So if you're not familiar with this so-called upgrade shell, I have a link at the end for a blog that the Novel folks did. They did a very good job explaining the concept. But briefly, we're creating an Angular application, but it's only a shell. And we immediately bootstrap your AngularJS application. So everything inside is actually running AngularJS. Then you can incrementally upgrade one component at a time. And gradually, you reach 100% of Angular components. But throughout the process, your application remains functional. So we found over 4,000 of these projects, and that's very impressive. It's 16%, or 1 out of 6, right? So that's very good news. It means a lot of people are interested in moving their AngularJS into Angular. However, if we look at the next graph, when we plot these repos against the Angular version, on the far left, we start with the very first version 2.0, right? It has the biggest number of repos, 842 to be exact. But as we advance the Angular version, the number drops like a rock. Beyond 2.x, it's really insignificant. And that's concerning, right? It probably means that most of these 2.x projects are inactive as of March this year, right? It's been a long time. It probably has been abandoned for various reasons. But could it be that they couldn't even finish the upgrade, right? And as I said, the upgrade is really a tough business. And we have these, I summarized it as 3 areas where we do need a lot of help. The first is planning, right? How do you even plan the migration process if you don't know enough about your legacy system, right? And how do you know which priorities to set? We want to start with a smaller subsystem, somewhat isolated, right? So we gain more experience, we gain confidence, and then we will be ready to tackle bigger systems. But without enough visibility, we cannot do that. And you cannot go to your boss and say, we need 6 months. He will ask, what's your basis for that estimate, right? And then in the second area, we have that upgrade module to deal with. It does work, but before it can work, there will be a lot of manual steps you need to perform, and it's very hard to get it right. So it reminds me of the clockwork. The clockwork is an engineering marvel. It runs so smoothly, it's so accurate, but we often forget that inside we have so many parts that have to be in the right place. Otherwise, the clock just doesn't work, right? So I feel the same way about the upgrade module. And people are struggling to scaffolding the hybrid project, and they need help in this area too. And then when we get to individual upgrade for the components, we deal with upgrading the business logic, and we're dealing with upgrading the HTML template, right? It has a whole new set of syntax. I don't know why they did it, but they did it anyway, right? And it will be so tough if we have to tweak every file to locate all these small places you need to fix. So putting all these together, we're thinking, well, what can we do to help? And we have been working very hard to come up with this tool that we call Angular Copilot. We call it Copilot because you are still in charge. You need to provide input. You need to guide this tool, tell this tool what to do. But then when you tell the tool what to do, it will do the boring work for you in a consistent manner. And it's essentially a desktop edition of AngryDog. We took the static analysis engine and embedded it into this desktop application. So now you can run the same analysis on your local machine. If you have a closed source project, you don't need to worry about any source data leaving your organization. We don't really do that, but some people have that concern, a valid concern. And we don't even send the metadata out. Everything is happening on your local machine, right? And specifically, we can actually analyze AngularJS applications. And that's a huge break, right? I urge you to go ahead and install a copy, let Copilot run through your application, see what it can tell you. You'll be amazed. A lot of people came to me and told me that. And then specifically for the migration, we also had premium features. The first of which is the wizard that can take you step by step to set up your hybrid application. So I think it's analogous to TurboTax. So for people who are not familiar with the American taxation system, it's super complex, and yet everybody is required to file income tax returns every year. And you have to fill out a gazillion forms. Then TurboTax came along and said, don't worry about the forms. Here's the list of questions you need to answer. But once you do, we'll crunch the numbers, we'll fill out the forms for you. So this is what we're trying to do here. And I can do a quick demo of that later on. And the second feature we implemented was because we know the components and their interdependencies, we actually understand the dependency injection for each of your component. So we have a table that shows your AngryJS component in the first column. In the second column, it's either a button for you to click to do the upgrade, or if you already upgraded it, it will be the Angular component. But the third column shows the dependencies for that component. So we want to upgrade all the dependencies before we tackle the upgrade of that particular component. And then last but not the least, this is by far my most favorite feature. I don't expect you to read any of the small text, but it's an HTML template with the old syntax. And even if you could read it, you have a hard time finding all the syntaxes you need to fix. How about this? This is much better, right? We have error markers to show you, okay, you have so many places you need to work on. But you don't need to do any of that. We have quick fix. It's in VS Code. So it really depends on how fast you can click. In a matter of seconds, I mean, everything will be fixed for you. So to recap, before we go to the demo, we do reverse engineering of your application, so you can understand much better your existing application. You can plan accordingly. You can have the facts to back up your estimate, right? And you can prioritize your upgrade. And secondly, we help you set up a hybrid application. And then for each component, we help you upgrade the business logic and the HTML template. So now, I hope that with this tool, AngryJS upgrade is manageable and it's doable. Many organizations are very afraid to take on this journey, right? And there are just too many risks involved. But now I hope we have removed this fear so we can start getting to it. It's still not a fully automated process, right? If you can click a button and this tool can do all the migration for you, I would have called it autopilot, right? But, but you still need to fix the method bodies, for example. But it's a lot easier for you just to fix those places instead of doing the things that you know should be done, but you just need to manually do the typing. That's not going to scale. And this is what my son drew for me for this presentation. And when I bumped into Brad last night at the NG party, he commented to me, you guys came a long way. And indeed we did. We worked really hard to make this tool into this kind of a state. And we're ready to tell the world about it. We really worked hard, but we didn't do it alone. We had a lot of help from the Angular team. They gave us constant feedback. And it's the same thing for Angular, right? Since 1.5 years ago, when 2.0 first came out, Angular has grown so much. It has been so much more well-rounded, and it's taking us to new frontiers that we never imagined possible. And I hope to convey the same message to organizations. You can actually do the migration. We will be there to help you. We want you to be successful. And so I'm not sure how much time I still have. 5 minutes? Okay. So I will do the demo until I reaches that time. So the first thing I have to demo is this syntax fix, right? So I'm looking at the, yes. Let me do this. Would this be better? Well, okay, the point is not to read the text, right, as I said. So you have this many fixes you need to do. You click on A quick fix, remove all these controls, fix all fixable problems. They're gone. Woo! Thank you. And I'll see if I can do the scaffolding in the remaining like 4 minutes. So we are looking at the Angular PhoneCat application, the demo AngryJS application from the Angular team. So click on the upgrade button, and we pick the directory where we want the new project to be. And what it does is it imported the source code and created the skeleton Angular CLI project, right? So we set up Angular CLI. You don't need to worry about doing that later on. And you don't need to worry about any gulp or any of your previous build. And then this is the wizard I was talking about. We have 5 steps. First step is tell us your AngularJS source. We import it into this project. And then we can go ahead and install the npm packages. Where we got these packages, some of them were the Angular CLI dependencies, right? Angular dependencies. But the projects tab, we have all the dependencies ported from boa.json. If you don't have that file, you can create one to help us along. But if you don't want to do that, you can click on the add button and add your dependency one by one. And if this is, did I click on the install all? Yeah, I think I did. And we can look at the directories in the new project. We have a source -ng1, that's your AngryJS. And we have a source, that's your Angular CLI created ones. And it's still installing. I didn't have the network. But then the next step, we help you configure third-party libraries. For example, this project had dependency on Bootstrap. We need to add the CSS. It had a dependency on jQuery. We need to add the JavaScript file. So here we will actually have a bunch of buttons for the popular third-party libraries. You click on these buttons and it will be automatically configured for you. And then the fourth step, we allow you to add additional style sheets, global style sheets, global scripts, or assets. For example, in this case, we have the phone images, the JSON files for the phone definitions, and that's the chance to add these. And once you're done, we're done with the installation. So how many minutes do we have now? I think I can get this done in probably 2 minutes.
That's exactly how much you have.
Okay, all right. So scripts, as I said, we had a jQuery already added, right? After I click on the button, and the style sheet, I have Bootstrap already, and I have two. I went into the wrong folder. 2 global style sheets, and I have 2 asset folders, phones and images. And we're done with these settings, so the finish button will actually do all the code generation for you, and it's already done. It's already done. We click on the link, we're back in VS Code, and now let's run ng-serve. So while this is compiling, we can look at the files we touched. We touched Angular CLI JSON, we touched package.json, main.ts, index file, and a whole bunch of these new modules that we migrated from AngularJS. Because modules are super easy to just migrate over, right? It's the actual components that are hard. So the compilation is done. Okay, now the moment of truth, right? Oh, sorry, not 4200. Localhost 4200. Well, see this message, the famous Angular console output, right? It's running Angular. But we look at this application, it's get out of this magnifying business. It's working. You can do filtering. Thank you. Yeah, it looked easy, but actually a lot of work went into this, as I said. At the end, I have a slide, but you don't need to worry about the links because it'll be available in the your NG app. Under the schedules, you have a speaker slides. I think the information will be available there, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you very much. And I'll be in the hallway answering any questions you might have.